Good morning, everyone, wherever you may be. You join me on a Saturday morning, Saturday morning, qualifying. So it's a bit early. She's a bit early for me over here in the UK. Yep, but getting ready for qualifying. Should be a good one. Obviously, this will be somewhat of a live brainstorming session, sort of discussion about derogatory names and terms that I'll be able to use for Daniel Ricciardo. Nothing against Daniel Ricciardo, purely against AlphaTauri and their management. We've all seen the news. I've known the news for a while, haven't been impressed about it. But we're not here to dwell on negatives. Well, I have, having just said that I'll turn this entire stream into a negative situation by slandering Daniel Ricciardo and AlphaTauri's senior management. But as we look at Charles Leclerc, if you're trying to sync up here, I'll try and give you a timestamp when the clock goes green. But how's everyone doing this morning? Justice for Liam. I think that's a good one. We can work with something from there on out. Justice for Liam. Against the Lawson. I don't know. Look, we'll come up with some stuff, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Looks quite hot in Suzuka. It's 4 p.m. in Australia, and like I said, I should say no hard feelings to any Australians out there. But you've already got Oscar, so just chill out, all right? You don't need 2. Oscar's more than good enough. Oh, as we see a shot of him in the garage now, getting ready. Right, what's the chat saying? It's 2 a.m. somewhere for Julia. A lot of not a lot of patriotism coming through from a few Australians, which is actually quite good to see and refreshing. Saying to Liam that Liam does deserve the seat. As we see his teammate Yuki Tsunoda in the garage there, home race for him, of course. No, anyway, I'm not going to tempt any fate by saying what I want to happen in this session, but I think we all know what's going to happen, or what I want to happen. Anyway, I'm not really going to try and dwell on it too much. It's a raw situation. It's still very fresh. It's a freshly cut wound. I was somewhat disappointed in the journalism from Sky Sports. I'll be honest about that. I think they had, I don't know if you've all been watching the entire qualifying session, as we see Liam on screen now, going up the hill at Sector 1 of Suzuka. I liked how the Sky commentators, when they had Christian Horner on as a guest at the start of the show, asking what the differences was between Daniel and Liam and what Liam could have done to get the seat and all that kind of stuff. And none of them actually had the stones to just outright go how much about it was commercialism and how much was down to actual skill in the car and talent and development. Because I think that would have been quite a difficult question to answer for Christian Horner. Maybe Sky's under some kind of, you can't say this, you can't ask that. But then where's the neutrality in journalism? How far does that then separate Sky Sport from the North Korean state? That's a question that I think that we need to look to answer in today's stream. How similar is Formula One media to, the Russian dictatorship, the Cambodian massacres, all that kind of stuff. I think we can draw parallels back to Scuderia AlphaTauri and the media outlets of Formula One. 16 minutes to go in the session if you're trying to sync up. Morning, everyone. Morning, if you're still tuning in. As we see Lawson starts his lap here now on a soft tyre. Thunders down the straight. Commentator. Here's the thing. The commentary team's been super positive about Lawson, which I do rate from Sky Sports because they're not usually the most, So yeah, I would have liked to see a bit more pressure on the Red Bull team from the Sky guys. I was disappointed. Anyway, we're here to talk about qualifying. It's a 32.27 in the first sector for Lawson. We will see a lot lower than that, I suspect, throughout the session. He's going to build up a bit of pace, but it looks to be somewhat of a clean lap so far as he comes into that super tight hairpin at the end of the first sector, or rather at the beginning of the second. He'll make his way down now to Spoon. Curve. Actually, it's nowhere near the beginning. It's like the middle of the second sector. Anyway, Lawson still looking pretty clean. That's the apex, runs it wide. Yep, floats it back in towards the second apex of Spoon. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit, but keeps it under control and on his way now to 130R. And he's purple in sector 2, obviously very early in the session. Braking for the final chicane. Here we go. Right, left. And across the line, as Jeremy Clarkson would say. DRS wide open once again. Is he going for a second push lap? He's been a little bit hindered if he is. Anyway, some fantastic headwear as we see year on year from the Japanese fans. I'd love to get out to Japan, actually. Suzuka seems like a cool one. But if anyone's got any recommendations, has anyone been to the Japanese Grand Prix in the chat before? Is it easy to get to? Like, what's it like? Because they're all a bit different. Some of them are shit shows. I used to go to school in Suzuka from Sabine. That's interesting. It's really easy to get to. Okay, there you go. So that's settled it then. I'm going to go to Japan next year. Probably not. But, if somebody invites me, if somebody's got a good option, if there's some kind of brand deal going. Somebody's going to the Monaco Grand Prix next year. Recommendations for food. Right. As we see Verstappen building for his lap. Recommendations for food in Monaco. There's my favourite restaurant in Monaco is called Pulcinella's, which is if you sort of exit the hairpin at Monaco, right? Stay with me. Exit the hairpin at Monaco, and then you'd have that next right-hander, and before the next right-hander, before you enter the tunnel, if you turn left and left again on Google Maps, you'll see, Pulcinella, it's fantastic. It's not too wallet heavy at all. Nice vibe. There's a lot of Formula One drivers who have eaten there over the years. Funnily enough, I actually saw Daniel Ricciardo there in 2012 on Sunday night after the Grand Prix. How old was I back then? 14? God. As Verstappen goes purple in Sector 1, something that we did expect to see a lot of today. Not too sure what happened with the Red Bull in Singapore, but whatever it is, it seems to be fixed. To be honest, I am saying this, but this is just based off vibes, to be honest, because I've not followed a single session of this Grand Prix weekend so far at all, obviously by virtue of it starting at fuck off o'clock in the morning. But, here we are, as Verstappen goes purple in Sector 2 now and flies through 130R, passing, I think that might have been Piastri, the Australian that deserves his seat. Norris purple in S1. Here we go. So McLaren, now I think they were maybe second and third. A lot of people calling for a McLaren pole. an opinion requested on the Warriors and the Broncos. Up the Wars is my only real sort of prediction on that one. I know absolutely nothing about rugby league, but up the Wars. I feel like up the Wars is like New Zealand's equivalent to a Rednecks Make America Great Again. You know? It really rolls off the tongue well. Up the Wars. Now, if you're not sure what up the Wars actually means, it's got nothing to do with Formula One, and it does have everything to do with New Zealand's National Rugby League team, who are currently having the season of their lives. Here's Hamilton's radio. Says he's very hot. Seat is getting very hot, so Lewis Hamilton quite literally in the hot seat. As we're running on board, quite a good helmet camera view from Sonoda. Usually these helmet camera views are the most violently bumpy, horrendous pieces of film that you'll ever lay eyes upon, but that actually looked quite nice and smooth. Has Suzuka been resurfaced in recent years? Can anyone answer that? It does look a little shinier than it always used to back when I was growing up. Alright, so running through the timesheet so far, we're at 9 minutes and 20 seconds to go in Q1. And as a yellow flag comes out, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Perez, Russell, Hamilton, Alonso, Ocon, and holy shit fuck. Oh god, it's Logan. Yeah, that's not great for him. That's really suboptimal. Usually you want to see all four wheels safely secured to the car. And the technical term for what he's done to the car there is he's fucked it. All sorts of shit hanging off the thing. How shit is the McLaren Monaco rip-off Williams scheme? I'm all for a special. I love a special livery, and especially a Gulf Racing Oil livery. We all love those as motorsport fans. But they've done a real shit job with this one, actually. The suit's quite good there. Looking at Sargent, the Williams mechanics, bracing themselves for an evening of hard yakka that they were looking to avoid, but oh well. Yeah, terrible job with that Williams as far as the livery. He's crashed in a convenient spot, I'll give him that. It's a short trip back to pit lane. But let's see what's happened here, is we're going to get a replay. Alright, so he's come through that last chicane, and it's just snapped on him, and he's right. Oh god. Fuck, he's actually, if they should give us another replay of that on board, he's lucky to still have his hands. The way he went into the wall, because he's kept a hold of the wheel, which surprised me a little bit. But I guess he come trying to keep the thing out of the wall. But yeah, I mean exactly the same way that Danny Clicks hurt himself by going into the wall like that and holding onto the wheels. Anyway, but no, he seems to have walked away from just fine. A little bit of hurt pride, I'm sure. But yeah, hey, there we go. Just paying a bit of attention to the chat again now, so if you do have any questions, now would be your time to fire them in. Red flag. Red flag's always a good time to talk a bit of shit. Will they be able to repair the car? Looks very fucked. They'll repair that. They'll definitely repair that. I mean, if Campos could repair Boschong and Kushmani's car in Zandvoort, then they can definitely fix that. Next Screaming Meals podcast. Now, we do have... we've got one in the can that is a filmed Clem's Wine Corner. There's going to be some updates on that, hopefully pretty soon, but it does involve, if you would like to see the filmed version, a certain specific online content creators platform that's very popular with a lot of young women creators. So we're looking to sort of diversify that platform a little bit by putting our shit up on there. So you can expect an announcement on that in the coming days, if not weeks, depending on how long Clem and Marcus take to sign and return the paperwork that they need to send back to me. So it could be anywhere between the region of 8 or 9 hours or 8 or 9 weeks. We really don't know. As we see a shot of Verstappen looking intense in his pit garage there, as he usually does. So that's sort of the update we have on the next pod. I think we would like to do a few. Marcus is currently in Brazil, but we'd like to do a few when he's back with Clem, who's also in Brazil. There's very disturbing t-shirts there in the crowd with Esteban Ocon and Charles Leclerc's face all over it, and Carlos Sainz and Charles. Okay, very bizarre. That's our next pod. So hopefully we'll have a few more in the bag when Marcus is back in town. It's a lot easier in the off season as well because all the drivers typically tend to be in and around London. So we'll see how we go on that front. I'm going to risk it and take off the American Legion hat. How's the old bed hair looking? It's pretty shit, but not actually as bad as I expected. So we'll run capless for the rest of the broadcast. No cap, as the young kids would say. As I'll have another look back at the chat. A little bit of discussion about my hair. Will I be at the Oz GP next year? No. Unfortunately, I actually would love to be because the fans out there are really cool. And I actually think best Grand Prix. As far as the racing that you get to see, the organisation of it, the location, it's definitely one of my favourite. It was my favourite Grand Prix on the calendar that I've been to, was the Aussie GP this year. But unfortunately, no, I won't be able to make it back next year. The only real reason, and I'll tell you a bit of a story here, the only real reason I went to Australia this year is because it was a bit of a novelty with Formula 2 being there. God, there's a long message. Oh, it's some kind of promotional stuff. I don't know what's going on there. So the only reason I really went there is because it was a bit novel. Formula 2 was there, and I thought, well, Clamogio's racing. How many more times am I going to get the chance to see my mates racing at the Australian Grand Prix? I don't know. So I thought, let's make the trip. And I had this very intense pang of anxiety as I got on my plane in London, as I usually do when I'm getting on planes, because I'm not a good flyer. But I just kind of said to myself, what the fuck am I actually doing? Like, I'm flying to the other side of the world and spending God knows how much money to do so, to literally just hang out with the same fuckwits that I see in London all the time. But it was worth it. It was good fun. But no, I can't make it next year because it's ridiculously far to travel and it's very expensive and it's a lot of time away out of the office. The time zones are very difficult with trying to do business in the UK and Europe, and whilst being in Australia or New Zealand. It's a whole fuck up. So look, I can't make it to Australia next year, sorry. That's the short answer. But we're on a red flag, so what's a short answer worth? Logan drove to the wall, he's okay. Somebody's providing an update. We met in Zandvoort and it was excellent. G'day Sophie, Subthegard. Recommendations for Abu Dhabi. Don't go. Would be my first recommendation. My second recommendation would be try to cancel your flights and accommodation. My third recommendation would be bring sunblock. As far as like food and stuff, where did I eat? I can't even remember. Classic. I think we had there's some hotels next to the track. As a fan, and I don't know if I actually should say this, but oh, fuck it. As a fan, I would recommend getting dinner at the hotel restaurants near the track, and you'll probably see a few drivers if that's what you're into. Somebody asking for a few words on IndyCar Rookie of the Year, Marcus Armstrong. Briefly back on Abu Dhabi. Recommendations. Don't go downtown. It's real scary. Because... So, yeah, I'll put it this way. This is one of the reasons why I really don't like Abu Dhabi. My mate was the drunkest man in the Middle East at the after party last year. I refer to him as the Wizard. You might have heard me talk about him before. So he was the drunkest man in the Middle East and lost his phone and the Uber as we went back after the after party to the hotel. So the next day we had to Uber, not from Abu Dhabi, but Dubai, where we were staying. I got roped into going with him and assisting him in collecting his phone. And so we drove past the circuit, got him there. I actually dropped off some race boots to Arthur de Klerk. That's a separate story of its own. And then we go to this like warehouse area in sort of downtown Abu Dhabi, like where the locals, the backbones live, if you will. And it was quite the culture shock, I'll be honest. Not a lot of people who seem to be benefiting from the oil money. A lot of them seeming to actually be struggling for cash a bit, which you don't get the impression of when you're walking around the circuit and the restaurants and so on and so forth. Quite a intense cultural experience going down to downtown Abu Dhabi. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I mean, I'd recommend it if you want to check it out. But it's essentially just what they call gift stores, which are just clothing warehouses and technology shops, which I suspect just sell second-hand phones and so forth. I have no idea. That's Lewis Hamilton with literally just a chrome helmet, which is interesting. I actually had the idea to do that in 2010. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you just got a silver chrome visor and then a silver chrome helmet, and then you'd just be like this essentially disco ball on the racetrack. So Hamilton's materialised that idea, which is good to see that he's been paying attention to my the back pages of my maths book in 2010. As we see some more of these big face signs in the crowd there that have become popular this year. I'm a big fan of them. Love a good mugshot. As we see a comparison between Verstappen and Norris in orange and blue, which looks very Dutch as a display on the screen. And it looks like Norris is really, fucking hell, I'll tell you what, old Landorian has got him through the corners, which is bizarre because, I mean, if you look historically at Suzuka and Red Bull in particular, when you see those sort of track data map things, good job, James, they're usually dominated in the corners by the Red Bull, obviously, because they've been a high downforce orientated car for many years, and then obviously this year they've gone more in the direction of the straight line speed. So, a surprising sort of flip of events to see the way that track advantage data was broken down. That was a little bit better. To see that Red Bull's quick on the straights and McLaren's fast in the corners. There you go, that's as much analysis as I care to give on that one. As we're about to go green again, we get a shot of Fred Vasseur's bald spot on the Ferrari wall there. Oscar has been so impressive. Yes, I agree, 100%. Novalak claims that Oscar Piastri is him. Which I don't know, how has that not been cancelled yet? Anyway, how is that not? I'm not going. No, don't go there, James. Don't go there. Riding on board Liam Lawson, who sits 12th at the moment and also sits behind the two Ferraris, queuing up for his second stab at a lap in this Q1 session here. 9:05 on the clock. On board Albon there. I'm just going to start pointing out what I see on the TV like some kind of toddler now. Aston Martin. And a cool lid there. Is that Fernando? Or is that Lance? I actually couldn't tell. I mean, that's Carlos Sainz. Those eyebrows are unmistakable. All right, so green flag once again. 8 minutes and 35 seconds left if you are trying to sync up. If you're ahead of me, now here's a free tip for any time travelers out there. If you're ahead of me, you have the luxury of just pause your TV for a bit and wait for me to catch up with you. If I'm ahead of you, I'm afraid you're fucked, because apparently you can't pause a Twitch stream. Didn't know that. Up until recently. So as we see some head honchos at Ferrari there in the back of the garage. So yeah, like I say, if you are trying to sync up, 8 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock in Q1 here now. Now, Leclerc struggling a little bit in qualifying as of recent. 2 third places in a row. It's just an improvement on his previous 6th, 4th and 9th. Let's see what he can play here, because he always has been the qualifier. As I believe I briefly touched on in my episode with the pit stop chaps. Don't know who watched that. I hope you all enjoyed it if you did. You know, you got to support the smaller podcasts. G'day Jake, if you're watching, mate. How you going? What time am I on now? 7 minutes and 11. 7:11 to go. What's the time? I took my watch off last night because I was having dinner in Mayfair. So you don't want to be running a watch there. It's probably time for... Here we go. Oh, some people being put on the naughty step for running too slow on the old lap time there. I heard a bit about this, literally. Okay, no, I don't know what that's in reference to. Shout when you're at 6:30 now. 6:30 to go on the clock. That was a well-timed message read. You don't often get those on this thing. Sorry, it's early, folks. Like I said, I was about to get around to... I went to check the time. I haven't got... But I think it's time for my morning Red Bull. Oh. Favourable flavour original, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. Or you can wank around with your summer edition, your tropical edition, your Arctic polar bear edition. I don't give a fuck. You've got to go original. That's the only way. Very limited pride in consuming this beverage this morning, because I'm not best pleased with Red Bull, as you can best imagine, this morning. But it is, and always has been, I'm afraid, my favourite energy drink. Cheers. Like every morning. Yes. Watermelon coconut get fucked. Watermelon coconut is not the best. I'd go as far as saying it's the worst. I'd go out as far as saying that it's the worst beverage that anyone's ever dreamt up. Watermelon and coconut. It's not a fruit platter. It's a fucking energy drink. Jesus. Sorry, I didn't mean to get that aggressive there. Strawberry and apple. See, all this, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's similar to the vapes. Like, I'm over vapes now. Like, just go back to the analog cigarettes, you know? Yeah, make everything all fruity and it doesn't have to be. Sometimes we can just settle for depressing and bland. Like Scuderia AlphaTauri have decided to do with their driver talent market. As we see, Perez rolls out of the pit lane. He'll be keen to put in a good performance. Not often he makes it out of Q1, so he'll be looking for a good lap here with 3 minutes and 56 seconds to go in the session. The vaping bankrupted me, so back to the cigs it is. I think cigarettes might actually be worse. I don't know. I'm pretty fucking sure that vaping would be cheaper than smoking darts. Something about... Enjoyed the pit stop podcast. You broke my heart in the last minute or so. Oh. When I was talking about going on a night out. It is pretty heartbreaking when you get those receipts through, but, you know, that's what... I'm not going to say that. Vaping is cheaper than smoking darts. Choose both. Lawson overtakes Lewis Hamilton in pit lane. Although he's ahead of him on the timesheets. Go on, Lawson. Where's Sonoda? P12 on his outlap. Oh, are you a coffee drinker, James? Yeah, I am. I'm not an avid coffee drinker. I don't like to sort of bleat on and pretend like I know things about it like I do with wine. But I'm pretty content with an office coffee machine espresso. Not Nespresso, but there's a good coffee machine in the office. Just hit the screen button there and no, not a tea drinker. Hit the screen. Double espresso, no worries. A little bit of hot water in the top to sort of make it a long black. If you're from New Zealand or Australia, you'll know exactly what that is. And if you're from anywhere else in the world, you'll be very confused as to what a long black is. And I don't care to entertain your imaginations on that one. As we see Gasly lining up a lap. Hopefully he doesn't put it in the wall. If he put it in the wall, Oh, no, he'll be good. No, Perez will be fine. I was going to say, yeah, if something happens now, then Perez might be cooked. But no, he's up in P6. He's fine. So who's in the drop zone right now? So there's a lot of guys who haven't done a lap yet. One of them being Gasly, who we're riding on board with now, who's 20 seconds into the first sector. Trying to compete with the 31.228 of Verstappen. We'll see where he gets spat out after he gets through that double right-hander and under the bridge. Under the bridge. Great song from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend is the city I live in, the city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry. Bring. I drive on the streets. That's right, you get the picture. Great song. 1.1 seconds up. Oh, fuck. 1.1 seconds up on Lawrence. So it looks like he'll be good to make it out of the drop zone here, Pierre Gasly. With 15 seconds on the clock, he's going to have to finish it off. A little bit of a wiggle through the last corner. DRS pumps open, and there he goes to P7. Just pips Lawson. James, when are we getting merch? Hopefully, and I know we say this every time, hopefully soon. Hopefully before Christmas. And when I say hopefully before Christmas, that's not for you, that's for us. That's purely driven by marketability. We know that we're going to sell more stuff on the run up to Christmas, and we want to make sure that we can maximize our profit margin. I'll be honest with you, because you deserve the honest truth, because you're backbones. So yes, hopefully we'll have some stuff out by Christmas so that we can take advantage of capitalism. Stroll, apparently. I think the chat's ahead of me. Nope. Yes. I was thinking for a second there that Lance might have stonked it. Alonso puts himself up to P11. And Lawson to P4! Suck that! Sorry, that was a bit aggressive, but suck that. Eat a dick, Helmut Marko. To douche. Fuck off back to Perth and just live on your ranch and die. Sorry, that was a bit aggressive, but fucking... Just fuck off back to Australia. You've had over a decade in the sport. Grow up. That's my honest opinion if you'd like to. Guan Yu Zhou's been blocked by somebody apparently. Sparks flying under the bridge. Don't you make me sing again. He's made it through though, no? No! Oh, he's out. So both Alfa Romeos are... The Alfa Romeos have been shit as fuck this year, eh? I think they're due a name change for next year. Maybe they should call themselves James. How funny would that be? Somebody bought a Formula One team and just called it like Nigel or something. Not like Nigel F1 Racing, not just named it after themselves. First name only. That'd be hilarious. Lewis Hamilton, pushing right up to the back of Lawson. Hero of the moment as he brings the wagon back into pit lane. How good, ladies and gentlemen. That was grass. I enjoyed that. Let's have a look at the chat now as we go to, I believe, an ad break. Sorry. Bit of indigestion getting the better of me there. Somebody read that Liam's new contract promises a seat for 2025. Is that true? No. Recommendations in Hungary you're going next year. Good. It's a good weekend, the Hungarian Grand Prix. I actually found... I liked the Hungarians, but I found the restaurant staff to be very rude across the board, which was a bit of a shame. But, here we go. Recommendations for Hungary. Get yourself a fucking rental car. It's not even worth getting on the beers at the track because they don't... hopefully they've sorted this shit out. But when I was there last year, there's like no, and again, look, don't judge me here. I try to avoid them if I can, but there's no buses. So I think Armstrong was staying late at the track to work with the engineers. So he looked like he was going to be at the circuit past midnight on the Saturday. So we needed to get home. The queue for taxis, it was, you know, when they sort of do the zigzag like they do at the airport. It was one of those, and I swear to God, it was the size of probably half a football field. So I would say the queue was the better part of 2,000 people queuing for cabs. And Rick Armstrong almost had a mental breakdown. I swear to God, I thought he was going to kill somebody at one point. I was just trying to make sure it wasn't me. But we flew to it, managed to get a cab. So anyway, long story short, recommendation for Hungary, make sure you can get back from the track. Don't assume there will be a train or a coach or anything like that. You're fucked. Make sure you have a car. That would be my advice. As for food, I've started the sentence now, and this isn't going to make me sound like much of It's not going to do anything that make me sound like a bit of a dick. But we didn't really eat anywhere that wasn't the Four Seasons Hotel. Because, look, I wasn't even staying there. Couldn't afford it. Rick was staying there, and so every time we had dinner, we just had dinner at the restaurant downstairs there. So, and whenever we did venture outside and try to go to a local restaurant, the staff basically spat at us and threw furniture at me. So, the Four Seasons was the way forward. Yeah. Those are my Hungarian Grand Prix recommendations. I should really write some kind of travel guide. I think we've discussed that actually previously, that we might do some kind of like Screaming Meals coffee table book, and just sort of review and just almost sort of give a vibe check on Grand Prix to Grand Prix with our own opinions. A couple of hotspot restaurants, a couple of nightclubs maybe, go for a boogie. Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully, well, that definitely won't be ready by Christmas. Oh, fuck, it should be though. Geez, those would sell. We've shot ourselves in the foot there, but hey, maybe for Easter, we bring out an Easter coffee table book. Shot of Lawson there, man of the hour, in the garage. There's a Japanese girl in the crowd there doing her best James Blair impression. Monaco nightclub recommendations. Get a ticket to Sunset, which is the after party by the... what hotel is it? If you're familiar with my TikTok account, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say, it's the last shot in my TikTok about Monaco. What's that fucking hotel called? Ollie Behrman will know. Anyway, there's a place, there's an after party called Sunset, and a lot of the drivers and stuff go there. We were there. Show up there around about midnight would be my recommendation. That's going to annoy me, the name of that hotel. Anyway, not much I can do about it. As Q2 begins, just see Verstappen rolling out. Are you coming to Hungary next year? No, I did. Maybe, but I doubt it, to be honest. Talking about after parties, how was the one in Milan? Saw you were there but didn't want to buy. Oh, you should have bothered us. I was actually sober at that after party because I'd been on the road pretty much for the entire month of August, working in the loosest possible term, which is essentially just involved, doing a lot of client entertaining, all that kind of crap. So I was just over it. I didn't want to drink. So I didn't. When you don't feel like drinking, you don't have to drink. You don't have to bow to the social pressures of the situations, Look after yourselves out there, folks. The Milan after party was pretty good. It was overcrowded. I think they probably sold about 100 too many tickets. So by about 1:30 in the morning, you literally just couldn't walk anywhere. I got fucking fed up and threw the toys out when I got to the bar, literally just innocently trying to order one sparkling water, please. And I was stood there, and unfortunately at these sort of after parties and events, there's quite a lot of sort of glamorous looking women around. And if you're an Italian bartender, you're pretty likely to want to serve the glamorous looking women before you serve the sober looking, I don't know what I am even these days anymore, man. So yeah, just got completely ignored at the bar, just trying to get fucking sparkling water. And so I just went, fuck this. Attempted to collect my girlfriend and head for the door, but she was so hammered that she didn't want to leave. And I thought, it's probably not a great look for me to be in my sober state trying to force a drunk girl out of a party who didn't want to leave with me. Probably not a great look as far as onlookers. So I decided against that one. We left around about 2:30 in the morning. Verstappen, purple in Sector 1. Obviously early in Q2, so that purple doesn't mean a great deal. Can you get Marcus a TikTok account? I want to see the utter chaos. What you're forgetting there is that having a TikTok account is actually still some amount of effort. And it's effort that Marcus will not be willing to put out. I can't see Marcus Armstrong being on TikTok in the near future. I hate to disappoint any fans that would like to see that, but it's just not. I mean, I didn't really want to do it. Clem kind of made me. But Clem pays my rent and so doesn't hold that same kind of power over Marcus. Just so you know, your camera keeps glitching for a second here. It's not actually, yeah, I mean, it's good to know, but there's not a lot I can do about that because I'm technologically handicapped and I am just running an iPhone operation here. There's been stringent budget cuts up and down Screaming Media Limited due to we won't go down that line. Basically, we don't have a bank account yet because Marcus hasn't signed the papers. Anyway, Verstappen top of the sheets, 129.9, and Albon P2 of 131.5, 1.6 seconds off the pace. Don't see that standing, and it doesn't. Here comes Leclerc, half a second off Verstappen, so a second faster than Albon and the Williams. That hasn't looked as quick here. Granted, all I've seen is this qualifying session so far where Logan seemed to shag it into the wall at the last corner and Albon was a little bit off the pace, but made it through to Q2, I suppose. It's more than you can say from the Williams in recent years. Marcus needs a PA. Yeah, he does. I can't move to America, so it can't be me. They're good at Silverstone, which is pretty similar to Suzuka, right? Yes. Pink sunglasses. That's an accurate statement. I'd say that's fair. That's good analysis from you, pink sunglasses. As Lewis Hamilton seems to have killed one of Sebastian Vettel's bees with his camera. Oh, God. Oh, the massacre. Oh, disgusting images on the screen. No, I don't know if it was one of Sebastian's bees, but it was definitely, whatever it was, it's not alive anymore. I did think, actually, look, good PR opportunity to do the beehive stuff down at Turn 1, but is a Formula 1 / or any racing circuit the best place to put bees if you want them to survive? I mean, we've all been on those big motorway drives and seen the windscreen afterwards. Do you not think that an open field might have been a better shout? Just saying. I get the photo opportunity. I get that all the drivers were in the same place to go and do the thing, and it's more about, you know, the conscious effort of being seen to do the things for the environment, to inspire other people to do the same. I understand that. But I can't help but feel we've just sacrificed a number of bees this weekend that will lose their lives to Formula 1 cars just for the sake of a photo opportunity. Is that unfair? Is that unfair? Pay attention to the chat. Piastri purple. God. No one seems to be weighing in on my B discussion, so it was obviously fucking boring. Here's Piastri to cross the line and goes... No, that was Norris. Here's Piastri to cross the line. Norris has gone P2, 3/10 off Verstappen. Piastri to P2, nicks it off his teammate. Almost 0.2 of a second up his sleeve as well. And I believe his first time at Suzuka. I suppose it would be. Sorry, just paying attention to the chat here if you're concerned about my silence and death stare. Somebody agreeing with me about the bees, that's good to see. another fantastic headpiece from the Japanese fans there. It reminds me a lot, actually, every year when we do have the Japanese Grand Prix of, you know when we have a royal wedding, and I know that we've only had two, well, I mean there's been a lot, but two main ones in the last decade or so. There's a lot of fascinator chat, and if you're not familiar with what a fascinator is, I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. It's those weird sort of like, they're basically like a yarmulke with dressing on them, that women wear at sort of fancy events like royal weddings, and it's the hat, and they go all, you know. The Japanese Formula One fan hats and the discussion around them, the fascination by them over the course of the weekend, does remind me of that sort of royal wedding thing. No, not a veil. A veil is for the bride. A fascinator is very much for the guests, and they're very, very silly looking if you do break them down from a functionality point of view. Yes, exactly like at the Melbourne Cup. Correct. Emily Davies, not sure. Yes, but yeah, a lot of people also now coming through and saying they were the fascinators. Yep, that's what they're called. Yes, so I believe, so my theory, what I'm trying to say here is that the Japanese DRS hats and the Red Bull hats and the pit stop light hats and all this weird, wacky, crazy, wonderful shit they do, a lot like a royal wedding or a racer's day. Which I guess it literally is a racer's day, considering that this is a Formula One race event. Here's Albon. 5 minutes to go in Q2. I've run out of Red Bull, which is concerning. Albon trending well here, so Lawson's going to need to find some more time if he is going to make it to Q3 appearances in a row. Sonoda's looking much stronger on this time around. Much stronger. Much stronger. Liam might have made a mistake on his lap or something, I don't know, but he seems to have lost a bit of pace there. But still 4 minutes in the session, so whatever he's got, he's going to have to pull it out on his last lap here. Any tips and tricks on how to get into a Red Bull racing after party in Oz? To be honest, you're actually, surprisingly enough, you're actually barking up the wrong tree to know about getting into a Red Bull after party in Australia. What I can tell you about Australia is that the Sunday night sucks. Don't make too many plans on your Sunday night, because Melbourne is a shit town for a night out on a Sunday. Have to be totally honest, don't really rate it as a city full stop, but hear me out, any Melbonians? Melboners? Melbourneites? Mel Gibsons? I don't like Melbourne because it's just exactly the same as Auckland, where I'm from. And so I flew to the other side of the world expecting to just, be like Australia, but then it was basically just Auckland, but a bit bigger. And it was very underwhelming, in my opinion. But if you're not from Auckland or Melbourne, I would, give it a visit, don't write it off. But if you are going to be heading down to that part of the world, being Australia, first section of advice, don't skip Australia altogether, go to New Zealand. But if you are insisting on going to Australia, I would recommend Cairns, I would recommend Sydney, I would recommend Tasmania, Port something in and around there. Actually pretty cool place, Tasmania. As speaking of Australia, Oscar Piastri stopped at the end of pit lane. What's going on? You see the McLaren mechanics running down with their leaf blowers. He doesn't look too stressed about it. I mean, he's sitting P2, so you wouldn't be. But the DeWalt leaf blowers, they're doing some kind of job. So we're going to get a replay of what's happening. It's just pulled over, so he's obviously Oh, okay. So no problem with the car. They just think, mate, you've done the job. I mean, fuck McLaren. Like, would you not... Save yourself some embarrassment and just make that call in the garage, would you? I don't know why Lando's not going out, though, to be fair. I mean, yeah, he's probably absolutely fine, but, you know, there is about 2/10 difference between Norris and Piastri, and that's plenty of margin in Formula One to sneak in between. That's actually almost some good commentary from me there. Magnussen on a lap. He's green in Sector 1. Like I said, I think there's going to be some more time on the board from a few cars here, or at least I'm hoping so from the number 40. Hamilton's trending quick. He's gone a little bit faster than Verstappen in S1. Trying to pay attention. Here, sorry, try to figure out what's going on, but if I was actually good at this, I'd be able to talk about it while I watch. But Magnussen, he's got half a second on Hamilton at the moment, so that, yeah, definitely a lot of time out there on track. Where is Lawson's timer? That's what I really want to see, Formula One media, please. I appreciate that New Zealand is a population of 5 million and you can't sell a lot of Red Bull and AlphaTauri merchandise there, but I would still appreciate seeing the New Zealander that we have on track while he's going to be here. You know. Lawson is half a second to the good on Russell. With 5 seconds to go in the session. All right, it's still going to be tight. There's a lot of guys on laps here. Come on, Lawson. Oh, he's only 10th. Fuck, he might be out here, you know. Albon's pitted and is out. Ocon doesn't improve, only to 12th. Tsunoda's not done his personal. It looks like we're going to get knocked out by George Russell here, actually. Tsunoda's in front of Lawson, though, as it stands. Oh, Russell just make a mistake. Russell and Gasly, they're our threats. And there you go, Russell gets it done. Demotes Liam to P11, which is a shame. Tsunoda does actually end up improving. So, impressive performance from him. Don't take that away. So that's, I mean, hey, look. That's still a P11 starting position for Liam Lawson in an AlphaTauri in his 4th race. That's pretty epic. And you have to say, I mean, given the top 10, I mean, Tsunoda's done a cracking job there, to be fair, but you can't see much more than a 9th realistically being on the cards. Especially with, like I said, look, hey, stick your hand up if you were right about something. Norris only P9 in that session, so they really did fucking cut it fine there at McLaren. But they've managed it well. They will go through and they will save a set of tyres on each car. Fuck, half a 10th to Alonso. That's a bastard. Anyway, hey, it is what it is. Oh, hang on, I'm just going to uncross my legs here. I'm very odd. I've recently started going back to the gym. Sorry for the silence there. I've recently started going back to the gym and I'm not enthused about it, I have to be honest. Everything just hurts now.
From F1 to Q1, let confidence in your data drive you forward. Formula One on Sky Sports, sponsored by Workday, a finance and HR system.
Just paying a bit of attention. We're on an ad break here at Sky Sports, so I haven't got anything to talk about anymore. Lawson to Williams. I mean, there's a lot of calls for that. I do agree. I don't know. Well, it's interesting how much you read into things that team principals say, and you shouldn't really do it because, I mean, look, Ricciardo's been signed for next year. There's no avoiding that because he has a larger social media following. But Horner did say, look, from Williams' point of view, there's not much point in signing somebody for 1 year. So do we read into that? Do we go, well, why did you say 1 year? So is there a plan for 2025? And if you know Red Bull, almost certainly not. So, yeah, hard to know what's going to be going on there. Is that the mayonnaise shirt, James? Yes, it is. This is the Hellman's mayonnaise. Dale Earnhardt Jr. NASCAR t-shirt that I picked up in Indianapolis. I was waltzing around the NASCAR fan zone in Indianapolis. And I really wanted one of these sort of NASCAR style t-shirts. And I was sort of shopping around. I was like, well, I don't really have any particular sort of affiliations is over-egging it. Any loyalty in NASCAR. I'm a completely neutral NASCAR fan. So I was shopping around, I sort of see this one, and I thought, but the thought process behind buying this was, I like Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I also like Hellman's mayonnaise, so that'll be the one. And here you go, I quite like it. My girlfriend hates it, but, you know, what does she know? This is seeing more tedious ads for just data gathering companies, fintech software, and crypto exchanges. That's basically all that sponsors Formula One now. Bring back fucking cigarette sponsors, eh? Like, I mean, we get, like, I know that they have the vape sponsors on there, like Views and all that shit, but if you're allowed to whack a, you know, vape pen thing sponsor on the side of your wagon, just bring back this cigarette money. Jesus Christ. I mean, like, you would have thought Formula One, of all people, probably the second most money-hungry, corrupt group of sports people in the world, behind FIFA. Why do they give a shit about lung cancer? I mean, they don't give a shit about anything else as far as safety or the improving fans' lives. Just get the Marlboro money back. It'd be way better, because I'm so bored of hearing Formula One presented to you by Workday. How many people watching this are actually going to fucking need Workday? But no, it's not about that. It's not about consumerism. What it's about, James, I'm going to make a point to myself here that I already know. What it's about is it's only for the 1% who are watching it. People know that wealthy people watch Formula One. It's people who aren't wealthy obviously also watch Formula One on a massive scale. But it's the 1%ers they're after. It's the business owners. It's people who they're looking to do reciprocal business deals with, who get the preferential treatment at the end of the day. So what they want to do is essentially just sell to the wealthiest 1%. And now we have to learn all sorts of shit that we really don't give a fuck about, as far as, synchronizing work calendars and organization and graphics charts and accounting software. I don't give a shit. I actually do, because I am a business, but, no one cares. Bring back the cigarette. Everyone can smoke a cigarette. Not everyone can start and run a financial services company. You know? Anyway, Q3 will start at 16:02 local time. Bring back cigarettes. The analog vapes. Yeah, I know that tobacco companies do it with the old vape, but the vape thing is the weirdest, loophole ever. It's like, what's an example of that? Oh, should I say that? Nah, probably not, eh? Nah, fuck it, I'll go for it. It's a lot like Jim Jeffries says about prostitution in the United States of America. It's weird because it's illegal in certain states, in most states in America, to pay someone else to have sex with you unless you film it, and then it's called porn. So if you commit the crime and you're accused of soliciting and employing, subcontracting a prostitute, you could say, yes, Your Honour, I understand that that's the situation, but I filmed it and I put it on the internet, so it's no longer a crime. And they'll go, yep, by the book, that's correct. Well done. You knew James would be more unhinged at 8 a.m. Calls for my brain to be studied. I was talking to a doctor in Milan who strongly advised that you don't donate your body to science. Organ donating, 100%, go for it, but don't donate your body to science, because she said, having gone to medical school and been around doctors and these bodies that are donated to science, she can say firsthand, or she could tell me firsthand, that the young doctors and even some of the more experienced doctors do some of the most inappropriate shit with corpses. So unless you want to be, for lack of a better word, the butt of some jokes around a medical school class or whatever, I don't know what they're called, I'm not smart enough for that shit, but yeah, don't donate your body to science is the moral of the story, because they'll fuck with you. Anyway, 10 minutes 40 seconds to go in Q3. Again, people asking on merch updates. We are hoping before Christmas. To have some news for you. And yeah. I don't know how much more I can say. Here's the thing that I'm going so far off the rails here. It's so early to be broadcasting. I don't know why I can't and don't just tell you exactly what we're looking to do. But I think that the theory is that we have to announce it in some kind of grand, big old way to make the most of the exposure on it or something. I'd love to just tell you exactly what we're up to, because I know exactly what we're up to. I know what it's going to look like, essentially, as a structure. But why do we do this? Why do we big our egos up to the point? And I'm not even having I'm having a go at ourselves here. This is a bit of self-reflection on your Saturday morning. Self-reflection Saturday. Let's make that a thing. Why are we inflating our egos by going like, oh no, we can't tell them. It's got to be a release. Like, oh, shut the fuck up. Just like, can we not just say what our plans are? Can we not just be open and transparent with our audience? I don't get it. But I get the branding side of it, but fuck me, I really just can't be fucked lying to people. I'm bored of it. I don't like keeping truths. I keep enough of them with my work. And that's not to make me sound dodgy. I can't tell people certain things that I know because of my work in motorsport. So anyway. Fuck. All right, Verstappen, 8:55 to go. He's on his push lap. 5.4G they're pulling in Spoon Curve. I don't know how much everyone knows about G-forces, but that's fucking up there. Purple for Max Verstappen, 111.1. Yeah, it turns out I'm very easily triggered if it's in the morning. Perez is battling here. Oh, he's on older tyres. The Sky commentator's leaping to his rescue there. 1.4 seconds off for Verstappen. I don't think that's going to be good enough for a front row start. Although Hamilton's looked a little rusty as far as pace through the weekend lately. Piastri, to douche. 4.4 tenths off Max Verstappen. Hamilton's looked a little rusty just as far as pace through the first part of the weekend up to qualifying lately, but he has been doing the business in the race. And Piastri will remain ahead of Norris by half a tenth of a second, the same margin, almost exactly by which Liam lost out on Q3. But all right, so it's Piastri looking to take the crown at McLaren. There's an interesting amount of chat around Norris's contract and all that kind of stuff, and Piastri having just extended. I think that's some of the best work that Zach Brown's done all year. I haven't checked with Chip to see if Oscar's actually under contract with him next year, but I don't believe he is. So it's finally some handy work coming out of the McLaren legal team. So yeah, a lot of chat around who could. It's a lot more chat. I will get to my point eventually. About who will be Norris's replacement rather than will Norris stay. So that I find quite interesting. Because it's such a gamble with Formula One. I mean, George Russell is case in point, right? Like, waited his time, jumps in the Mercedes, and oh, we're shit for the first time in a decade. Fuck that. Like, you're putting such a gamble on a team when you make a big move, especially a sideways one from an already... I wouldn't go as far as calling McLaren a competitive team. I mean, they're probably doing their best effort to prove me wrong here this weekend, but they've got budget. I mean, they're not Haas, they're not Williams. If they just get the car right, yeah, they've got the budget, they've got the resources to stay out there all season and potentially deliver a championship. But yeah, I mean, if there's but he could go to Red Bull and then they could suck George Russell. There's a long message here in the chat about accommodation. Okay, no, don't know what's going on there. So a lot of discussion about Lando Norris's replacement as opposed to whether or not that might be his permanent home. Russell is down in P7, starting his push lap now. People saying as long as Verstappen is there, he won't win in a Red Bull either. Quite potentially true. I rate Norris up there right up there with the best, but I do think Max is the best. So, yeah, I mean, is it just the suicide seat? I think it probably is, to be honest. But, we could have said the same thing about Lewis Hamilton's teammate 2-3 years ago, and look at Russell last year, beat him at the championship. I know the circumstances weren't necessarily what they typically would be over the course of a championship, but George definitely made Lewis look a lot more human than perhaps we thought he might be last year. And that's taking nothing away from Lewis, it's more a compliment to George, but it's not always, things aren't always as they seem. Maybe there is someone who could go to Red Bull and really challenge Verstappen. I would say it would probably have to be a real Austrian talent, which I don't believe there currently is. So we might be waiting a while. People are saying Lewis got hit by the new regs. Well, George was also. It's the same wagon as far as I'm concerned. I mean, to be fair, I think Lewis did a lot more of the experimental setups and stuff last year, which is why I will grant a certain credit. Not that Lewis gives a fuck about what I grant, but I can appreciate that it might not have been a normal championship, and George might have had the more consistently, here's the best we can do with the car, but we'll try something on Lewis's car. I believe that's what was happening. I don't actually know, but that would be... I think I've heard that from a couple of reliable sources. It's a cool lid from Alonso, actually. I really like the Japanese special lids. I mean, as you can actually see. This is very Food Network of me. Here's one I prepared earlier. So you can see I've got Japanese scripture on the top of my helmet. Because I'm just edgy like that, Oh! Any bets on the F2 champion? Yeah, Tao Porsche. What? I mean, we love our fan. And pink sunglasses, you've come up with some good content earlier, but that's a ridiculous question from you. It's going to be Tao Porsche, isn't it? Like what? We're just delaying that party by a few months. I don't even know why they are. No, I'm not going to go on a tangent about racing in the Middle East. I'm not going to do it. I will draw the line there. I'm not going... No, stop it. Stop it, James. 2 minutes 15 to go in Q3. Verstappen on top right now. Verstappen, he's just started his lap as we look. Is that Leclerc starting his lap? It is. 150 to go, so this will be the last push for all of them. Verstappen, like I said, sits on top. Piastri, Norris, Russell, Perez, P5. At least he's made it through to Q3. Alonso, Hamilton, Sonoda, and then the two Ferraris yet to do their push lap. So yeah, I mean, look, hey, Silver Linings Playbook, good movie actually about mental health. You should recommend it. Somewhat of an uncomfortable watch at times, but no, really good. Silver Lining. It looks like Sonoda will be 9th, 10th, and then that means for Liam, he I believe has free choice of tyres for tomorrow. That might be that rule might have changed now. I'm actually not sure. But anyway, I mean, look, he's not going to be that much further ahead of Lawson, so that's positive. I'm going to attempt to fix my hair and fail dramatically. Why are you doing this on the last push lap of Q3? Arguably the most important part of the qualifying session. And Verstappen's gone purple again. I mean, this is just a clinic, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is, you know... I mean, remember when... yeah, that's what I say. 128.8, 6 tenths to the good on Oscar Piastri. Looks like neither of the Ferraris are going to pull out any kind of realistic challenge here. No. P4 for Leclerc. Where's Carlos going to stick it? 5. All right, 4th and 5th for the Ferraris, which has really fucked up Perez's day. Piastri's, yeah, he's gone slower, as has Norris. So, I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, Ted's just said it should have called, was it Ted? No, somebody, Sonoda to P7, actually, that's cracking. Oh, fair play. Credit where credit's due. That's a good, you know, it will be a good couple of rows ahead of Liam then. Hamilton's still on a lap, though, so, you know, he can still relegate the man. And Perez has put in a P5, split the Ferraris. That's better from him. And Alonso's in the pit. So Alonso will line up P10, I believe. He will. But he's out-qualified George, so he's made me look stupid with that point I was trying to make earlier. But anyway. And Red Bull, or shall I say Max Verstappen, back on top. Perez, 8 tenths off. Mate, that's not an insignificant margin. That was a fucking clinic. Holy shit. When Max says it's really enjoyable, I mean, for a man who walks around with a face like a smacked ass pretty much 98% of the day, if he's saying it was really enjoyable, you know that thing was hooked up. So that'll be it. I'll run you through the grid before I bid you farewell for the day. Verstappen, Piastri with a front row start. Go on, Oscar. Is he him? Is Clem right? I think he could be, you know. Then it's Norris, Piastri's teammate, who'll line up P3. Charles Leclerc, P4. Better result for him, given previous weeks. Perez, again, you know, out-qualified by his teammate by 8 tenths. He'll line up 5th. Then Carlos Sainz in P6. The two Mercedes of Hamilton and Russell will line up 7th and 8th. Then it's Yuki Tsunoda in his home Grand Prix, who will be 9th alongside his childhood hero, Fernando Alonso, in 10th. And that's been the Japanese Grand Prix qualifying screaming meals stream brought to you by no sponsors because we don't have a bank account. So... yeah, that's that, folks. I mean, it's pole from Max. I mean, we all knew it was coming. Nature is healing. Verstappen is back on pole position. So, kia kaha, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. I reckon I'm going to be back for the race tomorrow. So, see you then. I'm going to go pound another Red Bull, maybe have a cigarette and go back to sleep. Kia kaha.